Hello.
How are
Good
you doing?
morning. It's morning here on the West Coast-ish still,
Yes.
not.
I know we originally started making the schedule and we weren't taking that into account. And then I looked at it, I was like, we cannot ask our West Coast people to be up training at like 6 a.m. We got to move.
Well, I would do it. I just might not have my hair done yet.
Yeah, I have done some of those like really weird time zone ones, and you
Yeah,
try to make yourself look a little bit more awake than you actually are. So we just wanted to, keep it easy for you.
I appreciate that.
Awesome. Well, we're really excited to have this conversation. We've had some great trainings today. We've been talking about what building your sales team and your sales system. We've talked
hmm
about um, increasing sales through maintaining your relationships with your clients. We've talked about selling on LinkedIn. We've talked about how to sell like a natural even when you're not. So we've had some really good trainings, and we're excited to have yours as well. So what we're going to be talking about is how to handpick your dream clients.
Yes.
So I'm excited for that because how many of you have ever worked with somebody that you're like, you are clearly not my dream client, and yet I just signed a contract and I have to work with you for quite a while. It's
Yes.
not that much fun. So,
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
yeah.
And there's two parts on this that I really think is important. One, what you said, like actually working with the people that you love working with because it makes the work so much more enjoyable. And then the other piece, really building that confidence of hand picking them and being proactive in it versus just hoping that they find you.
Well, and there's Myron Golden is a good friend of mine and a great mentor, and he teaches this principle of Charlie Brown sales, where
Okay.
there's kind of like a hierarchy, and when people don't have the confidence to go for like the Schroders, they end up picking the I don't know, what's Charlie Brown's best friend's name? Linus. They end up picking the Linuses, who then bring in they refer in, the pig pens. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
you've got like a business full of pig pens. You're going,
Yeah.
how is my business full of pig pens? But you just didn't have the confidence to go for the Schroders and the ones that you really wanted. So I
Yeah.
think it's really important to make sure we know who we want. So we're going to dive into this. But before we do, can I give your official introduction?
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. So Christy is the founder of My Time to Profit, which helps business owners build their sales savvy so that they can tap into the power of sales to win more customers, increase profits, and continue to grow. She is a master certified small business and executive coach with more than 15 years of sales and marketing experience with Fortune 500 companies. She's the author of the best-selling book, Radical Abundance, and she regularly speaks to groups on the power of contagious influence and how to create radical abundance in your life and business. So I'm excited because I'm telling you, the feeling when you get that dream client and they're exactly who you've wanted and you land that deal. I don't know. There's not very many things that feel better than that other than like holding a brand new newborn baby for me.
Why? Yes. Or a puppy.
Puppies. Yeah, puppies can do it too. The thing with puppies is I like to see your puppy, but then I want to give it back. I have 3 though, so apparently I lose that discussion. I'm always like, no more animals. And then we have 3 dogs and 1 cat. So,
Oh, yeah. Awesome. Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I am super excited to be here. I think I love having groups of people talk about sales, and it's something that I'm really passionate about because it's my work. But what I've also found is there is so many possibilities now for marketing, and the internet has made marketing easier than ever before.
yes.
And in doing that, a lot of people have forgotten about the power of sales.
Yep.
And
Yeah. I think I just want to pause you right there because I want to give an amen, hallelujah. Sales is lead conversion, marketing is lead acquisition, and people are trying to market to the sale. And you have to create a separation between the two because marketing is getting the leads in and getting them warmed up, but sales is where you actually convert them. And if you're over marketing and still not hitting the sales that you need, it could be just you've forgotten that you need to sell.
yes. And I always say the number one goal of marketing is to make sales easier. It is not to replace sales. And I think in today's age, it's just easy to forget that.
Right.
And so I love anytime that there are conversations for business owners to help make that easier and more accessible and less intimidating. It warms my heart. And I think there's so much value add for everyone in that.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm asking everybody to just share a little bit about your story. Tell us how you got started and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, so I joke. My first sales job when I was about 8 years old, and I was in brownies, and so I went door to door selling candy in my neighborhood, and I was one of the top salespeople in the state of Washington at that time. And so I won like a horseback riding trip and all kinds of cool prizes.
Hmm.
And I joke about it, but there's some truth in it in that I grew up very poor and we didn't have a lot of things. And so this horseback riding trip that I won was an experience that I would have never had otherwise. And it really was my start to be like, wow, sales is really an opportunity to open doors for people. And it is one of the skills that when you have it, and you're confident in it, it translates to every area in your life. So fast forward, I started my professional career working in public relations at a big PR firm in Seattle, which I quickly learned was also sales. You're just selling something differently. You're selling journalists on why they should care about a story.
Right.
Uh, and then spent the bulk of my career in medical sales. And then about 3 years ago, I just had so many friends that were starting small businesses that were really struggling. And I saw this gap between all of these business acumen and sales skills.
Hmm.
And just that willingness to embrace sales with a few tools was something that was able to transform their business success pretty radically in a pretty short period of time. And so I got really passionate about helping business owners to do that in their own businesses.
I love that you brought that up because I always tell people the very first skill that you need to master, the first thing to tackle is sales. And it is not that hard to make a couple of adjustments, like honestly, get a good script in place, learn how to do a few things, and you will see a dramatic transformation in your business.
Yeah.
And I asked this question earlier, but I want to bring this up again. I want you guys each to think about how many hours you spent on sales last week in your business. If you want to double your business, double the hours. And we've talked about how to build systems so that doesn't all have to be you, but really just put more focus on sales and you'll see those numbers will really start to go up. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about your techniques and processes.
Yeah.
When you talk about going after your dream client and handpicking them, what are some of the strategies that you teach your clients to do so that they can achieve that?
Yeah. So the first thing is to be clear on who your dream clients are.
Mhm.
And it seems so simple, but it's something we don't think a lot about in our business. And especially if you're first starting out in business, you might not know, right? When you start, you might have some ideas, you might have some guesses, but to really think about what were the clients that you have loved working with the most and what do they have in common? And you'll start to notice that there are themes that emerge. So it's interesting. This year, I had the opportunity to work with um, two different video marketing companies on their sales processes.
Mhm.
On the surface, these companies have so much in common. But when we really got into it, the one company, they love shooting outdoors. They are great at capturing outdoor images. They like working with mid-sized companies that are growing in these outdoor brands, and that's their sweet spot. The other company I work with, they love working with handcraft makers, more in the manufacturing, kind of gritty. Those are hugely different types of clients that they work with. And early on in their careers, they wouldn't have been able to discern that. But as they have more experience, it's like, what do all of these people we're working with have in common? And to start to notice that and to think about it, not just in terms of the market segment, right? Like outdoor companies versus hand makers, but also in terms of what's the size of the companies, what are the characteristics, what do they value, how do they like to approach their work, right? Is it someone that likes to work on deadline and have everything nailed down at the beginning and works really with systems, or is it more go with the flow and being creative and making adjustments on the fly? All of us have preferences around that, and the more clear we can get on as much of that as possible, the easier it's going to be to start really specifically going after those types of clients.
You brought up that when people are brand new in business, they don't actually know. And I just want to point out that the only way you will actually know is to acquire some clients. So in
Absolutely.
the beginning, I've seen people hold themselves up because they feel like I don't know who my ideal client is, so I can't get started. My advice is take an educated guess, acquire some clients, work with them and go, oh, I really like this. I don't really like this. Never want to do that one again. Like you do have to actually get in the field before you know what that information is. And it may also adjust with time. But
Yeah,
but that's okay. Like I always tell people, your brand is not a facial tattoo. It can evolve over time. Like pick
absolutely.
something, roll with it, get started. Okay, so
Yes.
that's the first step is knowing who is that dream client. Now, how do you go about starting to hand pick them?
Yes. So once you can identify what that segment is, so I'm just going to stay with this example of these video companies. You can start to be curious. Okay. I mean, Google is such an amazing resource. So, do you want to work with local based companies, regional based companies, national companies, right? And then you can just Google search what are the resources around that. So, I'm here in Bend, Oregon. There are tons of outdoor resources. So for this client I was working with, where they really identify they want to work with emerging outdoor companies who want authentic outdoor video footage, just through a simple Google search, we're able to identify organizations like an Oregon Outdoor Alliance. Okay, who are the members of that? Because they
Right.
care about the same things, right? You can start to be like, what are the shared values? What are the industries that are out there? What types of companies? Where do they hang out? And just on a lot of websites, they'll have a members list that you can go on and access and just start writing it down. Sometimes we overcomplicate this. We think there has to be this big fancy system
Mhm.
or algorithm, but start small. Okay, if I wanted to work regionally with XYZ type of company, let me just do a quick Google search and see what I come up with. And then there is a part of it where just start writing it down and trust your gut. Like, for whatever reason, I'm drawn to this one, but not to this one. Honor that and be curious about it. And the goal is to, for me, initially to create a list of between 40 to 100 potential clients, depending on what your number of clients you need to serve to hit your revenue goals are. But I always say start smaller because you're going to learn. And if you create too big of a list of potential ideal clients from the beginning, you're going to get overwhelmed and you're not going to do anything. So even
Yes.
if 20 to 40 isn't enough to hit your revenue goals, it's a good starting point. And it's better to start and be consistent than to have a huge list, be overwhelmed, and not be able to have that consistency.
Well, and the other thing is too, I'm sure you're going towards at some point you've got to start reaching out to them and promoting
Yes.
yourself to them. And it also, the other thing about a smaller test pool is it lets you test to see if your reach outs are performing well. So that way you don't blast 100 people with something that nobody was real excited about, that you just kind of missed the mark. Because let's be honest, everything you do in marketing the first time is an educated guess. The better you get at marketing, the more educated and the better the guesses are, but you're still trying things out. You're still testing. So I definitely agree with that, that coming up with a focus list and then taking a sub segment and saying, all right, now let's dip our toe in here and see how it works.
And then you get better at refining that list
Mhm.
too. So you get better at your messaging, you get feedback on that, you get better on which approach. Like, wow, I'm noticing I'm having a lot of success reaching out via LinkedIn and on the phone, but I'm getting no responses from email. Okay, now I know where to spend my time and energy.
Right.
Um, or maybe I know that when I am working with a client now that is in the medical software space. And when we go out and we interact with those clients in person in their offices, the results are 100 times better than when we make phone calls and send emails. So yes, it's not as time efficient, but the output is so much better. You
I have
don't,
a client in the same industry, and I am telling you, those people have gatekeepers. They don't answer their phones,
yeah.
and somebody else checks their email. So they're hard to
And
reach if you don't
you
know.
don't know that sometimes when you're just starting out. And so what happens is if you start with your list of say 100 people, and to your point, so once you have this list, start with a list, get as close as you can to what you think your dream clients are. Start small with people, pick one area. So for example, it might be there's a trade association. Let me pick 20 people from that trade association that are in my region. Start reaching out. So just play with, okay, I'm going to send 10 emails. I'm going to make 10 phone calls. I'm going to send 10 LinkedIn messages. I'm going to send 10 in-person introductions of myself. Here's what I will say too, which I've heard you talk about today. Sales isn't a one-time event. So
Right.
when you build that list and you're hand picking, if you send one email introducing yourself with your script and you don't hear back, that doesn't mean you take them off your list. It means that you reach out again and you follow up. And generally, there's different statistics out there, anywhere from 4 to 7 times until people respond. As salespeople or people in business, when you're doing sales, we tend to give up after 1 or 2 times.
Yeah, and I'm telling you, because I track numbers in the way that I run my sales system. So first of all, every single lead that we call, you opted in for something of ours, right? Like we do not just get names and call them. You asked to be in our space somehow. You
Yeah.
opted in for something. We acquired your lead because you chose to, right? So then when we do phone calls, it is, most people stop after call number 2 or 3. We don't even get a hold of you guys, which by the way, my team would love if you would answer your phone the first time. Please do. But we don't even get a hold of you until calls 4 through 7. That's when it happens. Like the first 3 phone calls, we just don't reach you. And I get it. It's because you're busy. It's because you don't recognize the phone number. It's because whatever reason. But it does take a higher level than you want it to. And there's this idea that like, they're bugging, I'm bugging them, I don't want to feel like a stalker. Guys, the truth is, the first time, I mean, think about this, the first time you see a phone call, a phone number that you don't recognize, you're just like, I've had like 3 today while we've been on, and my phone keeps buzzing. I'm like, I don't know that person, turn it off. I don't know that person, turn it off.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes. It isn't until call 3 or 4 that they even go, I feel like I've seen this number before. Who is
Yeah.
this?
Or maybe I listened to the voicemail and something was interesting, but how many times are we checking our email or listening to our voicemail while we're in the middle of something else?
Right, you're on
And
the
then we're like, I'll get back to that. And then what happens? Like 3 other things happened in my life and I've totally forgotten about it. And so a lot of times people actually do want to respond, but they've just forgotten about it. It's become something that they intended to do. And then they got distracted because they're human. And I think we forget that our prospects are humans with busy lives and full schedules. And it doesn't mean they're ignoring you. It just means they're human.
Yes. And the other thing that I think is important too, which you've touched on, is that you can't do all of those touch points through the same communication channel,
Yes.
right? Some
Yep.
people you can call them until the cows come home, but it's not going to be until you send a text message that you're going to hear back from them.
Yep.
Some people, you could email them all day, they're never going to respond. Some people you can only reach by phone. So some people will never respond to their LinkedIn, and other people, it's the best place to communicate with them.
Yep.
The challenge is we have so many communication options now. You've got Messenger, you've got LinkedIn, you've got email, you've got phone, you've got text. Like you have mail. You just have to try a few different things and find your sweet spot.
Yes. And I always say for all of my clients, when you're first starting out, make a grid where you can actually see all of your primary communication channels and make sure you're utilizing all of them in your system until you get a sense of where you have the most impact. Mm-hmm. Right. And what we tend to do is kind of like love languages, but on the sales side, we tend to default to what we like and our preferred method of communication.
Yes.
For me to pick up the phone, I hate the phone. I will much rather go in person and see somebody or send an email or a text. Phone and social, I'm not great on. So I underutilize those oftentimes if I don't have a system and have it in front of me.
Yeah. And I'm like, just text me. Can we run our whole life through text messaging?
Right. 100%.
I can do it on the side of a football game, just taking care of business.
And the one thing, if there's one takeaway that people take from what I'm talking about handpicking your dream clients, is make a list and start small, to your point, because that's going to allow you to do the follow-up. If you have a list of 100, 200 people and you're trying to use multiple communication avenues and get to that 4 to 7 outreach efforts before you make a decision on if you should take them off your list, there's no way that you are going to have the discipline to do it in the midst of all of the busy things that you're doing and maintain the momentum. You are better off starting with a list of 5 people even and just saying, if I could win these 5 clients I would be ecstatic. Okay, let me just figure out what would that look like to go and reach out to them. Where do they hang out? What industries are they involved in? Do they attend any networking events or conferences? Can I go there and interact with them? Can I really pay attention to their LinkedIn profile and see what they're up to? And I use a lot of this same techniques when I was in PR, where, and I think you were just talking about this on the previous call, when you start small and you're really picky about the clients you want to work with and your dream clients, you can make it more personal.
Yeah.
And one of the best techniques that I learned in PR is if I was pitching a journalist, read what they're writing and say, I really appreciate your perspective on XYZ and this article. And that's why I thought you might be interested in this. Same thing when it comes to sales. Like, I really appreciated this marketing campaign that you did. And it looks like you're really, taking a stance on sustainability in the outdoor space. I would love to work with you on your campaign on that, and here's how we can help.
Mm-hmm. I
It's
love
a
it.
lot more powerful than just, here's my same script I send to everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked about this earlier as well. We were talking about LinkedIn, how like if I go into LinkedIn right now, I guarantee you I have at least 40 pitchy emails that have nothing to do with me. They're not personal at all. But whenever someone sends me a message that says, "Hey, Amy, I just read your article on XYZ and I really like this," you guys, I read those. Like, that's just human nature, right? When
Yes.
somebody is telling you, "I see what you're doing, I'm paying attention," it catches our attention because it makes us feel like, I mean, you guys know this. Have you ever felt like, am I the only one that reads my blog, or is it just me and my mom, and my loyal followers? And then you have somebody else that reaches out and like, "Oh, I came across your blog article, or I saw you posted in this place," and you're like, "Oh, okay, it's working. People are paying
Yeah.
attention." It catches your attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing I want to say about this is sales is so much about psychology. And as human beings, we all have an innate desire to be seen, heard, and valued. And if you can do that for your prospects and your dream clients, the process is going to be rewarding for you and for them. And that's just a win-win, where you're just connecting with people that you want to work with. You're seeing them in the world, you're recognizing the value, and that you're connecting it to the value that you're offering in the world as well. And that to me is what makes sales so powerful and so rewarding.
I love it. And I want to point out one thing about this too. If some of you are at that place in your business where you feel like you don't have the marketing budget you want, which,
Mhm.
let's be honest, that's every business all the time. We always wish we had more money. What Christy is sharing with you is Google, right? Like, she's talking about Google, which is, last time I checked, a free
Yeah.
resource. So you're not looking at having a big expensive marketing budget here. She's teaching you a really simple, really effective way to identify who your dream client is, go after them, reach out, and really handpick your clients. I love that it's low budget.
We really overcomplicate it. I mean, we
Yeah.
really do. I think local chambers of commerce are also great resources. Who in your local chamber of commerce, if you're working with local businesses or local business owners, that's a great place to go out and meet with people if you're in like B2B sales and small business, because they're going to be there. So just keep it as simple as possible, right? If it were simple, what would you do? The other question I love to ask my clients as we're kind of thinking about who are your dream clients is, if you were going to have a party at the end of the year, so in this case, maybe the end of next year, 2020, and you were going to invite all of the clients that you worked with, and you knew they were all clients you loved working with, who would be at that party?
That's good.
And I think it just frees up our mind a little bit to like, who would I want to invite to this party and celebrate success at the end of the year with?
I love that because, not all money is good money. Like, you will have
Mm.
some clients that you go, "Oh, this is not worth it." And think about it. Like, you have some clients where you love working for them. Like, you love working hard for them. And then you have other clients where it feels like work to work for them.
Yeah.
And so we want to make sure that we're creating, because here's the honest truth. I think everybody should reject business. I think
Mhm.
everybody should turn away clients because they're not the right fit for you, because it keeps your integrity level high. It keeps you creating wins. A couple
Yeah.
years ago, my mantra for the year was, "I only create wins." And it was a year when I really focused in on who I was saying yes to and what I was saying yes to. And because I knew exactly who I wanted, I didn't have as many clients overall, but I had more sales and we were more profitable because we were only focusing on the kind of business where we could absolutely create wins. So I love it. Okay, Christy,
Yeah.
we are going to wrap up here. So I'm going to ask you, we're going to end with some questions. Okay.
Love it.
So number one question is, what's the number one thing you want our listeners to remember from what you've taught them today?
Be clear about who your dream client is and start small. And start with the small list that you can proactively reach out to with consistency, thoughtfulness, and personalization. And you will be much more likely to win those customers. And I want to go back to what you said at the very beginning. People hang out with similar people, professionally and personally. So once you start winning your dream clients, they're going to refer more of similar clients to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if you start small and you're just like, okay, I'm going to try and get 2 dream clients in the next 2 months. Awesome. You're building that foundation, and be intentional, but you're better off starting small and doing it than trying to hit everyone and just getting overwhelmed and not doing it.
Absolutely. Okay, so next question is, what do you want them to feel from what you've shared today?
I want people to feel empowered, that it is your business. You get to have leadership over the type of people you work with and how you choose to start those conversations. You do not have to sit at home and hope that your dream clients are going to reach out to you. You have the ability to be focused and intentional about who you want to work with and start those conversations.
Absolutely. I love that. Okay, and what do you want them to do because of what you've just taught them?
So if you haven't already, think about, and don't just set a timer for 10 minutes to start. Think about, what would my dream client look like? And then make a list of 10 people who fit that profile. So you can at least start to see there are at least 10 people that I could work with and reach out to that fit that profile. Because once you start, it's so much easier to build momentum. So if you don't have a list of what your dream client looks like, or a list of specific people who fit that profile that you want to proactively reach out to, create it. And don't be afraid to think big either, right? That sometimes we think, well, those people wouldn't want to work with me. Just if they fit the profile and they come to your mind, or you find them on Google and you're excited about it, put them on your list.
I love it. Okay, now the last question is, I know that there's more to this conversation.
Yes.
And there's a big part of me that's like, oh, I wish we had an hour, but we only scheduled for 30 minutes. So I know that there's more to this process. And I know that our listeners are probably feeling that same sense of like, we're leaving on a cliffhanger. What do I do to, when I reach out? How do, and I know you have all of that process in your mind.
Yes.
So I'm sure that we have people who want to go and connect with you right now. Where should they go? What's the best place?
Yeah. So the best place to do it, there's 2 ways. So if your preferred method of communication is email or LinkedIn, which I'm not great at being active on and I'm working on, go to mytimetoprofit.com and subscribe to the email list. There's tons of great resources that you can get. Right now, I just uploaded a new one, 5 questions you can ask to multiply your sales. I think questions are the best way to start conversations with your dream clients. So that's a great resource. Download that at mytimetoprofit.com. Or if you like consuming information and education on Facebook, there is a Time to Profit Facebook group. There's a page too, but the group is so much more engaging. You do have to ask to join that group, but we approve people. You'll get approved, I promise. And we do a video every week. A lot right now, we're actually doing a whole series on how to reach out to your dream clients. And every week we're walking you through a step in that process. So you can go back and watch the previous videos and get caught up, and then stay tuned for the next steps coming up in the coming weeks. So the Time to Profit Facebook group is the best way if social, and then mytimetoprofit.com if you prefer getting those videos sent to you via email.
I love it, Christy. And what I love about your method of acquiring clients is the simplicity of it.
Yes.
Because I've been studying digital marketing for the last year, really attending a lot of conferences. And it was funny because the first half of the year, I was super excited about it. And then I hit like this 3-month period where I felt very overwhelmed by it. And then I had this like, come to Jesus moment where I was like, Amy, what are you doing? You are overcomplicating things. You know how to do this. Sales is simple. Just go out there and acquire some clients. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying digital marketing isn't good. It is. But I am just saying there is a beauty behind simple processes. I love that. Okay, so okay, I was just checking to see what Tanya was saying here. So Tanya says, I'm traveling, can't write, need to go to the giveaways. I'm not sure exactly, Tanya, what you are asking for there. So I would love to answer that question, but maybe it's because I've been on since this morning, but my brain's like, don't compute. So feel free to clarify that question.
Oh, the links.
Oh, what's the links? Okay, so
Link.
the link is mytimetoprofit.com. That's the website. And then the Facebook group, if you want to join the group, the Facebook group is the Time to Profit Facebook group. So
And
go
right
to,
on the homepage is that 5 questions you can ask to multiply your sales resource,
awesome.
along with some other sales planning tools and checklists as well.
Awesome. Well, Christy, thank you so much for coming and giving us your time and giving your expertise. You guys, would you give Christy some love in the chat and tell her thank you for coming and being a part of the All Access Sales Summit? We really
Thank you so much for having me here.